Hey guys, welcome back to Say Mojo Homestead. Today we are going to be talking about garden design. Probably one of my favorite things I get to do each year out here because Cass, my wife, gives me the liberty to kind of switch it up every year. If you guys are coming over because you listen to Jess's podcast, then welcome. If not, I would encourage you to go listen to that before you watch this video, just as kind of like some background information. I will try to link that down below. But let's move on. What I want to talk about in this video are several things. One is a quick, easy, free way to figure out like your garden dimensions and lay that out. Also, we are going to be taking a field trip and looking at a project that I've been working on that will kind of give a visual illustration of the basic elements of design, I'll say. And then lastly, we're going to lay out our garden for this year. We're going to design it and kind of explain what I was talking about on that podcast so that you guys can get a better idea of what we personally are going to be doing in our garden this year. So let's get started. So for our first free tool, we're just going to use an iPhone because that's what I have. The orientation is this way because it's just easier to see on full screen. So you're going to open your maps, go to your location, zoom in as much as you can, and screenshot. Now this is just one way that you can do this. There's other ways that you can do it, but we're just going to walk through this way. So once you do that, you're going to open up your photos, open up the picture that you took, and go to Edit. Now in Edit, you can go to Markup. So that's going to allow you to draw on the picture and kind of start working and getting a feel for the space. So the first thing that I do when I'm doing something like this is put in all of the permanent structures. So in our case, that's going to be the greenhouse and the raised beds. So for this illustration, I'm really just going to put the greenhouse in there. Now you can do it freehand, or you can open up the square tool or shape tool and put in a square. But for this, I'm not going to do that. So at this point, I'm also thinking about how I want the space to be used. You want it to reflect yourself. So kind of think about your personality. Do you want this to be an inward focused space or an outward focused space? What I mean by that is, do you want to try to keep all of the attention and focus within the space, or do you want it to be a space that you go sit in and reflect or look at or focus on everything around that space on the outside? Both have benefits. It's really just up to you. Also, while I'm doing this, I'm looking at where are my focal points within the space going to be, kind of your anchor points. That could be something kind of tall, or a bird bath, or a fountain, or anything like that. Really even raised beds. These are typically kind of your bulk items, and then start to build off of that. So you could have radiating points off of a central focal point, or in our case, kind of a spiral in and then out of the central focal point. And so as I do that, I'm really getting a better feel for the flow of the space. That's really ultimately what I'm working towards in this process. So just to give you guys an idea and some background, this is kind of the main room in our garden that I will refer to. It is the backside of our garden because we come in behind you guys and then come over here. But we did set the greenhouse up over here, and the TP trellis is really kind of the focal point in this whole thing. So the way that we have ours set up is when you come in, I'll swing you guys around, it's really kind of a journey to this main area in our garden. But on that journey, I really am focusing on this year creating a process in getting over here. Not like traps or dead ends or anything like that, but a visual, experiential process as you walk in to the garden. One that will kind of invite you into these other spaces. At the same time, encourage you to get over here into this retreat area, what will be kind of the main walled off with a green wall, meaning live plants area. So to better understand all of these design terms and everything else, well, let's go take a field trip. All right, guys, so we are here in Columbia, off-site, fun little field trip, so that I can show you sort of the elements of design. So this is a project that I designed and we've been working on. So I'm just going to kind of walk you through it and then quickly kind of talk about how you can implement all these things into a garden design. So here we go. So as you walk in, you kind of have these bigger plants over here that will get taller, but they sort of act as that grounding. So it gives your eye something to focus on as you enter. Also, if you notice, like these darker colors here kind of keep your focus forward and doesn't distract you as you get in. But as we get in, we've got these bright yellow that then immediately take your attention on around to the gathering space over there. And so this is one of those ways that you can manipulate the way someone uses a space. It sort of naturally guides them through subconsciously. Obviously the path is doing the same thing, but as you go in, this yellow draws you in. We also have other brighter colors. So if you notice, there are taller plants back there that sort of create this entryway. And once we get into here, it really starts to open up. So we have like the taller plants again over here against that wall to really make you feel like you're in a nice private space, courtyard area. And everything else right along this patio is lower. So it really helps to create this outdoor room feel to the space, where the trees sort of, once you're over here and they're leafed out, close off the rest of the area once you get in here. And so you almost don't even like really see that path. Also, there's a little bush here that'll get pretty big and fill out this whole area right here. So it really closes off that. And so it creates this pathway in as you come in, but once you're in, it really creates this like closed in feeling that almost makes you forget that there's an exit. It draws you in, it invites you in, and makes you want to hang out. All right, so for garden purposes, if you think about all these aspects, so we have our anchor plant here and another anchor plant here. Anchor plants in the garden could be like a bird bath or like a tall trellis or something like that. It's basically something that's going to really anchor in the space. These other things like the shrubs. So, you know, we can say the shrubs could be like your tomato plants. You know, they have some good bulk to them and also some good size. And then, now I'm gonna refer to plants that we grow in our region, but these taller ones on the corner and these guys could be your okra. And that could be what really kind of creates a kind of a wall in place. You could do sunflowers for that as well. Just something that's gonna be really tall and create a green wall. And then all of these lower things. So you can think about, like in your garden plants, they do have different colors. So you can get these colors. It's not just in the fruit. So like your squash plants are typically a little bit more of a kind of a tilt toward yellow green. So that could be, you know, your squash plants could be what winds through here. And then the ground cover could be anything like potatoes, sweet potatoes, beans that you just let kind of ramble along the ground, anything like that. Or you could do herbs for those as well. And then your peppers could be, you know, we've got some medium shrubs over here. Those could, you know, be replaced with peppers. And there you have it. You know, you got sort of your main things. You really create a lot of interest. Mixing those plants up, you got the different shades of green in the leaves, and then not to mention the fruit as well. So space like this can easily be transformed, or these design principles that were used in this space could easily be implemented in a vegetable garden. Okay, so back to ways that you can lay out your garden for free without buying one of those programs. So now we are in Google Earth. If you're not familiar with Google Earth, it is a great resource for stuff like this. You can measure it out, and I can get within a foot accuracy. So this is our garden space once again. And so what I'm doing right now is just measuring out the perimeter of it. So the point of this is to get our scale and all of our measurements as accurately as possible, so that then I can transfer it to paper and start really laying it out in detail and figuring out how many plants and where they're going to go and all of that stuff. So one thing that is very beneficial with this is that not only will it give you the lengths, but it will give you the perimeter. So, I mean, even if you're at like ground zero and you're just trying to figure out how much fencing you need, this is a really easy way of doing that. You can even change the unit of measurement from feet to meters to whatever you want to change it to, miles, centimeters, whatever. The other thing that I like about this is that it will also give you the entire square footage, which may or may not be helpful, but I think it's a pretty cool tool. All right, so let's get to designing. So I'm going to walk you guys through this process kind of step by step. So right now I'm taking all those measurements that I got off of Google Earth and I'm just measuring it out, getting this on paper. Now I am old school. I like to hand draw stuff. I just feel like it gives me like the ability to feel the design. I don't know. I think that's might sound weird unless you just get it. So that's what I'm doing right now. I am going through, marking out the perimeter, getting those things down that are permanent things like the greenhouse and all of that stuff. Now, keep in mind, I already have an idea of kind of the lines that I want to create in the garden. Some of that is because they were already there, but then there's new lines that we're going to be switching up this year from years past. So right now, getting that path in, the main path that goes in, and the focal point of that being TP, and then also working on that spiral path that we created last year. Now, this is the labyrinth portion of the garden. And if you remember, if you listen to the podcast, a labyrinth, if you don't know, isn't really a maze. It doesn't have dead ends or it's not meant to trick you. It's more of like designed to be a journey in and then back out. And it's one continuous path. And so that's what we set up because Cass was really wanting a labyrinth somewhere on our property. So last year I gave her one in our garden and it really ended up being such a cool space, more than we even anticipated. So we definitely want to keep that. That section is what is going to become kind of more of a room. At least that's going to be our goal this year, is creating that with a room. So as I had mentioned when we were out in the garden, I want to create this kind of journey into that space with the rest of the garden. Now, in the years past, it's kind of just been a normal garden, kind of row garden. Never really got too creative with that space. Now, the area I'm working on right now is that entryway. It's what we put in a couple years ago, and it was really the first step in making the garden a design area. So really love that area. That's obviously staying. That's all permanent structure type stuff. So if you can see on the middle of that design, those kind of slash marks, that's that journey in. And so really I've angled it that way for two reasons. One is because it's on contour. So it's meant to kind of catch the water as it falls. But two, it sort of allows you to walk into that space, but really it's going to catch you as you walk out, which I felt like I wanted to do that as opposed to walking in, so that it almost causes you or draws you to linger a little longer. Now, what I'm doing with the color is starting to play with the plant layout and what's going to go where. So the red on the perimeter of this spiral are going to be our tomato plants, the bulk of our tomato plants. That's what's going to create the walled in effect. We're going to use those as that kind of living wall on that outermost spiral. And then as we work our way in, the plants are going to get smaller and smaller in size. We're going to do interplanting. So we'll mix in, the peppers. We'll put in the basil with the tomatoes. We're definitely going to do sweet potatoes sort of as a ground cover all through that space and really make it feel really full in the areas that are planted and really define the path area. Now in these diagonal row sections, probably just kind of do a little bit more of the same. Definitely want to use tomatoes in there as well so that it almost blocks your view as you walk into the garden so you don't see the whole thing at once. A good design kind of creates this reveal, conceal type idea, which means you don't just walk in and see the whole thing at once. It's something that has to be discovered as you walk through that space. And so definitely want to create that with this. And so really, guys, this is it. This is our garden for 2024, and I am so excited about it. If you guys have any questions about any of this stuff, please leave them in the comments below. Otherwise, I hope that this inspires you to push the boundaries in your garden. Gardens are, of course, for growing food, but they are also for creativity to be expressed. So hope you guys have fun, have a great week, and be blessed.